Umihara Kawase is the brainchild of Kiyoshi Sakurai, who programmed and designed the game before its Japan-only release on the Super Famicom in 1994. At first glance, this game seems simple. Like many platforming games of the time, you run and jump until you reach the end of each level, or, as they're memorably referred to here, fields. But there's a major twist. Kawase Umihara, the girl you play as, and the namesake of the series, yes, there are actually more than one of these games, uses her trusty fishing line and its rubber band-like properties to propel herself through each of the game's 49 fields. You hook to walls, ceilings, and floors, and completely abuse the power of physics in every way imaginable here. You can slowly walk, jump very unimpressively, and shoot your hook in 8 directions. Once you've hooked onto something, you can reel your line in, or give yourself some extra slack. Now, the intricacies of this physics-based gameplay are so profound that the game can actually slow down on original Super Nintendo hardware in rare cases due to how many calculations the game has to figure out. Don't worry, it doesn't affect the gameplay, it's rare. But, yeah, it's a simple concept. Anyone who understands how a rubber band works can probably wrap their mind around the idea, but in execution, the game has an insanely high skill ceiling because of this. You've been seeing my really unskilled play in the background here, but just to illustrate the possibilities, let's watch a brief clip of some tool-assisted gameplay. Yeah, I would be lying if I told you I had the slightest clue what just happened there, and I've played this game for hours on end, so don't feel bad if you have no idea what you just saw. Beyond the gameplay, which is the biggest hook on the surface, this game stands out to me in terms of the feeling of it. Let me explain. The story of the game is almost non-existent. Through supplementary materials outside of the game, we can tell that Kawase is a sushi chef, which probably explains why the enemies you'll be encountering along the way here are various kinds of fish. From goldfish to eels, octopi, seahorses, eventually even sharks. And it also gives some helpful context as to why there's random batches of lettuce, carrots, and other vegetables left laying around the background of the abstract world that the game inhabits. This is no Mushroom Kingdom. The world Umihara Kawase presents to you is bizarre, almost bleak. A set of floating blocks set against painting-like backgrounds littered with horrifying sea life that appear and disappear spontaneously in puffs of smoke. If Kawase is really a chef, which the game doesn't ever explicitly state, this must be some kind of weird fever dream after too long in the kitchen. The game structure also goes a long way towards establishing the dreamlike feeling. In every field, you seek to find a door waiting at the end, but very quickly you'll start to realize that some of the levels have multiple doors to choose from, and this is where things get really interesting. It's physically impossible to see every level of the game in one run. Depending on your choice of door, your path will vary, and the paths seem purposely obtuse and confusing, weaving in and out of each other. I said earlier that there are 49 fields total, but the numbers go up to 57, because certain numbered fields just don't even exist in the game at all. Capable speedrunners can clear the game in under 2 minutes. And side note, the game even has a feature to save replays of your best runs and watch them back, way ahead of its time on the Super Famicom. But a first-time player could easily get lost for hours on end trying to see everything this game offers, and this lack of linearity helps to contribute to the atmosphere. A lot. This game feels... I don't know, I almost feel stupid saying it, but it feels personal and somber. The colors are dull, the game almost never explicitly tells you anything outside of a few textless demonstrations of basic hook techniques between the early levels. Almost everything here is up to you. Blaze through as quickly as possible, or take the longest route and try to see everything. Go out of your way to fight all 4 of the game's bosses, all of which make creative use of the game's limited mechanics. Or don't. It's up to you. There's no world to be saved, no princess to rescue, and that's what stands out about this game. It's there for you to discover at your own pace, and it feels like the world of the game doesn't even care about your presence in it at all. Despite how barren these sets of floating blocks initially seem, unpeeling the onion and getting to know this game, despite the fact that it doesn't even feel like it wants you to get to know it, gives it this feeling of being alive, even when you're not there to see it. The ending of the game is a perfect example. There are 4 fields in the game that will trigger the ending. You make your way through the level, which is not differentiated from any of the other levels, or designated as the last level, or anything like that. And when you swing the final door shut, the camera holds, the credits roll, and as nonchalantly as it began, the game just ends. The music continues playing, the enemies still move around, the world of Umihara Kawase is still here, whether you are or not. It's a tiny touch, but I don't know. This game has such a distinct feeling, like Kiyoshi Sakurai made this as a side project just to amuse himself or something. Although the game has spawned sequels and a small dedicated cult community, this initial release on the Super Famicom was essentially an indie game before indie games were even a thing. And the small scale of the development team definitely shines through here, but in the best way possible. If you don't get what I mean about the tone, just check out the cover art. This isn't thick lines and solid colors. Kawase doesn't want to be a mascot or an icon. It's indifferent to your struggles, and as such, it'll actually chew you up and spit you out. It's brutally difficult. You have to learn to play the game on its own terms. You better grab some of the pink backpacks along the way for some extra lives, if you can even manage to reach them. This is really no walk in the park. Umihara Kawase is small, inconsequential even. But that's what makes it so beautiful. Every tiny step forward, every inch of progress feels like a grand achievement in and of itself. When people describe games as art, they often point to games with grand, sweeping narrative, novel lengths worth of text, character development, but to me, Umihara Kawase is gaming in its purest form, never cluttered with the cliches of other mediums. It's a game through and through, and the way it's structured, the way its subtlety reels you in, last fishing pun, I promise. These are feelings that can only be achieved in a game. If you're the type of person who requires a ton of pomp and circumstance to be impressed, you might make the mistake of calling the game one note. But the truth is, if you have the right ears to hear it, Umihara Kawase is a symphony, and one that's content to leave the question of whether or not to listen to it entirely up to you. But I am not Umihara Kawase. I am Backseat Sakurai, and I will tell you in no uncertain terms. The song this game sings is one good enough to get stuck in your head and heart for a lifetime. So just do yourself a favor, huh? And listen close. Oh, and one more thing. The game is available on Steam now for like $10, so no need to spend $90 on a Super Nintendo cart. I'll catch you later.